Well, it finally happened. The executive has arrested a judge. It happened in a Wisconsin courthouse, specifically where Judge Dugan was arrested and charged with concealing an individual to prevent his discovery and arrest. And the reason is that allegedly, when ICE showed up in a courthouse to arrest a man, Judge Dugan escorted the man ICE was looking for and his lawyer out of the courtroom. Why is this concerning, you ask? Because it's an unacceptable escalation of the attacks by the executive against the judicial and a threat to judicial independence and autonomy. Now, to understand truly the severity of what happened, you have to first understand that the warrant that ICE was executing was not a judicial warrant, it was an administrative warrant. A judicial warrant is an order signed by a judge, an Article 3 judge, that authorizes law enforcement to take some actions, to search something or seize something or arrest somebody. And before a judge can sign a judicial warrant, the government has to prove probable cause of what they're requesting to do through a very strict evidentiary process. An administrative warrant, on the other side, is a civil warrant, which is signed and authorized by the executive by the same people that then execute it. And it does not require probable cause, it only requires reasonable suspicion. To give you a measure for how weak an administrative warrant is, consider that it cannot be executed inside of a home, lest it would violate the Fourth Amendment, and that's why you see ICE arrests occurring in the middle of the street. And that, in my opinion, is why Judge Dugan first asked ICE what type of warrant they were executing, a judicial or an administrative, to understand what kind of authority they were exercising. And when ICE responded that they were executing an administrative warrant, Judge Dugan reacted understandably, in my opinion, because any warrant enforcement inside of a courthouse is problematic, but it's even more problematic when the subject of the warrant is a defendant, when the warrant is executed during court proceedings, and especially if the warrant is administrative. Why is that even more problematic? Because a warrant executed in these conditions undermines the Constitution. It is disruptive to proceedings, it intimidates defendants and witnesses who are there for completely different reasons. But especially it undermines the separation of powers and the security of due process by arresting someone outside of due process who is there to see their due process protected. And this is not a problem I'm just making up. This is something that troubles court systems across the United States enough that there are some court system rules or even statutes like the one from New York you see here that restrict or even prohibit the use of administrative arrest warrants in or near courthouses. This is an unacceptable abuse of power by the executive and an affront to the independence of the judiciary, all in execution of an administrative warrant that could and should have been executed elsewhere. And remember, just because it didn't happen to you, it does not mean it couldn't.